So I
I'm so
just went
nervous.
live. I just went live on Facebook now, also. So just
Cool.
sending out a message right now to people. So I'm about to start right now. Good evening, my friends. It's Robert Seidel. I welcome you to the Gateway Show, broadcasting live and the number one talk station here in Las Vegas, right this second, and then simultaneously simulcasting on Facebook. So you can listen to this on Facebook, or you just go to the Robert Seidel Facebook page, and you can listen to this show live. And at the same time, you can listen on the radio, number one talk station here in Las Vegas, and wherever that broadcasts. If you ever want to hear remotely, you can type in KXNT. Hey Debbie, how you doing? Um, you can listen anywhere in the world live on KXNT. If you just type that in, it'll tell you how to listen live. And then simultaneously, it might be as equally easy for you just to listen on Facebook Live anywhere in the world where you might be. So it's a pleasure to be with you here tonight. I always look forward to this show. It's a chance to kind of get my mind lifted up and focused upward so we get to launch into a good week. And tonight I'm especially looking forward to this evening because I've got Christopher Rausch here tonight, who I actually met.
What's up, buddy?
Nice to see you. I actually first met Christopher. I think it's I don't even like to hardly think about things like this because it's been about 10 years now, I think, since I met you.
It's been a decade, dude. It's been a decade. It's been
I know
amazing.
we don't like to admit that type of stuff, but it's true. Actually, it's what starts to become more clear. Ah, good. Somebody says, "So glad I caught this tonight." Good. See, I'm glad you are too. You're not seeing. I'm trying to think how you would see that. If on you probably could, but you'd have to turn off the sounds. It'd
I
probably
could
be
I
too
could actually see I
complicated.
could actually see it because I got Facebook open, so I can see James Breeze. What's up,
Oh,
James? C Bassetti. I hope that's correct. Debbie Hall. What's up? Thank you guys all for being here. Appreciate you guys.
yeah. Oh, great.
Let's ask some questions tonight.
Yeah.
Ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, so Christopher and I met at a networking group, a networking mastermind group that went back by a mutual friend of ours named Craig Duswald, called the Rockstar Mastermind Group, and that goes back about 10 years ago. And I'm a big believer in networking because networking expands our life. And you never know. What I've discovered is you may walk in and you meet one person, and that one person changes your life or becomes a lifelong friend. So I try to explain this to my kids. They'll say, "Well, what is it that what am I going to get out of this?" I said, "Well, you don't know ahead of time. That's the whole point. You have to show up with an open mind." Have you ever had that experience, Christopher? You
Oh,
know,
100%. You don't know what the golden nuggets are going to be until way down the line. And that's why I always tell people just show up, be present, learn, be aware, take notes, take action. Yeah, 100%.
yeah. So I met Christopher. As a matter of fact, I interviewed him on this same show, but it's been about 5 years ago now, I think. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I did
Oh, I
interview once
remember.
before. You
Yeah,
do? Okay. Okay,
of
good.
course.
Yeah, but that was before Facebook and before Zoom and all that. So we just did it as a phone call, a call in. But so I'm really excited, my friends. This will be a very exciting night, a chance for all of us. Christopher's got a great story. In fact, we might as well just launch right into it right now. He, Christopher and myself, each in our own unique ways, we're dedicated to getting the most out of our lives, right? That's probably the best way to put it, right, Christopher? Um,
100%.
and so, but we each have a different, I call it destiny on this earth. And whatever the story was, you'll have to tell more of it to me. But whatever the problem, you were raised in such a way that at some point you were living in the back of a car with 7 cats, right? You have to start there.
Seven. No, 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 not seven. 18. 18 cats and 4 dogs.
In
Let's
one
be clear.
car. Oh, yeah.
In one car, a 1969 Country Squire station wagon. Yeah, it was 18 cats and 4 dogs. And that was not the only amount of cats. I actually just finished writing my book not too long ago. There were about 30 plus cats in the house. But because the sheriff showed up and kicked us out, we only got 18 cats in the car. True story. 100%.
I believe it's true because I'm just absorbing that a little bit. The only thing I can think of is that must have been one smelly car. No, I'm just teasing.
It
I
was,
don't.
you know what, honestly, Robert, that's the crazy thing when I was going through the book and I was writing it, because there was such a close proximity of space. There was 2 cat litter boxes in the back seat.
Yeah.
Every time a cat went to the bathroom, I had to clean it up. So to cut down the odor, every time a cat went to the bathroom, we cleaned it up and threw it away. So it actually wasn't so bad. The bad parts were when it was raining outside. So
And
you
they
had
would.
the humidity inside the car and everything else. And then you had dogs panting. It was I literally just finished writing my book. And there's parts of it where I'm like, how did I do that? How did I survive that situation with four big dogs, 18 cats, and a mother who smokes cigarettes inside of a 69 Country Squire station wagon? How?
To
How?
be absolutely honest with you, I'm having a hard time
Can't make it up.
absorbing it. I know I've heard this story a little bit before, but I'm letting it back in again. I would say that's kind of hard to absorb, also, for me
Yeah,
too. From the outside, it's hard for me to absorb that. And
it is.
so, what led up to you this happening? Obviously, it sounds like you got evicted, but tell me a little bit how you got into that situation.
Yeah, actually, it was because of a cat. True story. My mother had her favorite cat, Bunny Rabbit, and I was jealous of this relationship that my mother had with this cat. And so Bunny Rabbit developed feline leukemia and basically was given a death sentence. And my mother spent the last $5,000 that we had on trying to save this cat. And unfortunately, when I came home, I got expelled from seventh grade or put on suspension or something like that because I was fighting and doing drugs. And I didn't tell her this. And she says, "Oh, we're going to have to move." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Well, we've been kicked out of the place." And I said, Mr. Price, I still remember his name. Mr. Price wants to move back into his house. And I said, where are we going to go? And she goes, "I'm not sure yet." And so literally, yeah, she spent the last bit of money that we had on trying to save her dying cat. And yeah, the next 4 ensuing years on the streets of Southern California were pretty amazing.
So
Let's just
you
put it
were,
that.
that's the other thing I was going to ask you is how long this went on. So it sounds like it went on sort of on and off for 4 years. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah. It was, yeah, 4 years. I was 13 when it started, and I was 17. And after two failed suicide attempts, and then after having a gun put to my head, I had to make a tough decision to leave the situation, leave my mother, and start changing my life for me.
Huh. One of the things I told you before we did the show today, I am familiar a little bit with these stories because we've talked about them years ago, but now it's like kind of like hearing it freshly again. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like somebody posted in the notes, they said you were in survival mode. So let's see, put that in. Um, so you were in the car and you just felt like you were hopeless then. Obviously, if you were suicidal, you were hopeless, right? At that moment.
Yeah, we were in and out of the car. We were in and out of motels. We would get motel vouchers. My grandfather would pay for motel vouchers, or every once in a while, I would have a job or something like that. But yeah, ultimately, it just became a situation. We actually even won the lottery. My mother won a $5,000 scratcher lottery ticket at one point, and I thought, oh, we're gonna get an apartment. I can go back to school, and that wasn't the case because of her psychiatric disorders and whatnot. She said, I quote, "One day I will have a 4 bedroom house with a pool." And God is my witness. Fast forward through the story, she ultimately achieved that. She ultimately lost that again. That's another part of the story. But yeah, yeah, it's a crazy, insane ride. I mean, it's called "It's Just You and Me, Kid." You guys can go to itsjustyoumandmekid.com. It's an insane story of resiliency, of believing, of waking up every day and just doing your absolute best to get through that particular day. And ultimately, because of what I did and the things that I experienced, I became the man I am today. And that's the truth. I'm great. As much as there was so many messed up situations, so many messed ups. I'm grateful for all of them because they helped shape who I am today. And I love who I am today.
Well, by the way, I was sharing this with you before the show started. You're younger than me, almost 20 years younger than me. But the bottom line is that I think we both are sort of getting to the same place, which is that you eventually, and anybody out there, I make this suggestion to you also, the sooner you can say, I'm okay with all my weird idiosyncrasies and strange things that might have been happened in my life, I'm still
Right.
okay. And if you believe in God, that God loves me as I am, then at that moment, however you get to that place, that is the only really healthy way to move forward, right? It's the only healthy way.
True. It's true. You
So,
got to sit there and look. I mean, one of the biggest things I tell people is life is happening for you, not to you. Like, oh, everything keeps happening to me. Everything keeps like get out of that victim mindset. Realize that it's all preparing you for what's next. When you look back on your life, Robert, when did you learn and grow the most? When things were easy or when things were challenging?
no, I'm laughing. Listen, I always say to God, I know this is what I say in my prayer. Well, actually, I have a prayer for other people too, by the way, which is, by the way, I'll show you a quick video. I know you've seen my book before, but I'm
Of course.
the reason why the book, I hope of my book, the hope of this, is so people don't have to go into as many holes, and because we'd like to think we don't have to all reinvent the wheel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But still, it's true that I look back on my life, and there's been a couple of places where I was lucky to make it out of there more than once, and I'm sure you too, as you've already just said. And I look back and I
Still to
realize
this day.
that depth of hanging on turns us into a new being if we make it through the story, right? If we make it
100%.
through, then we suddenly are a much stronger person.
Right. Are
Um,
you familiar with the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's story?
um, Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
No, no, sir. I mean, seriously, I encourage every single person watching and listening to this to go to YouTube, type in the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell story, and it talks about that. It talks about when you think about all the movies that you really love, what is happening? They're going through the hero's journey. They're going through all these stressful and tough situations, and you're rooting for them. And they come out the other side and they want to go back home and they want to tell everybody about the strength and the resiliency and the things that they've learned. This Joseph Campbell story, I think it's about an hour and 24 minutes or something like that. It is incredible for the fact that this is our life. We signed up for this, Robert. We signed up to sit there and say, okay, give me the challenges, give me the battles. I'm personally going through a couple of them right now, still to this day. But I'm so grateful for them because I know on the other side of that, I'm going to look back and I'm going to be like, wow, I don't want to repeat that again. But I'm so grateful because it happened, because it teaches us so many lessons. And that's the thing. Why life is teaching us lessons right now, but so many people are going to their short-term gratifications. They're trying to ignore everything. They're hoping, wishing, and praying that someday something's going to change. But life is going to pass people by. There's a great book out there called The 5 Regrets of the Dying by a hospice nurse. And in that book, the number one regret of the dying was people didn't live the life they wanted to live. They lived the life they thought they were supposed to live. Oh, I got into medicine because my parents told me to get into medicine, but I really wanted to become an artist. I wanted to become an actor. I wanted to do these things, but I did this because that was safe. That was certain. That's what everybody else wanted from me. And I wanted everybody's validation. When you think about that and you tear that all away and you go after what it is that you truly love and you create a legacy every single day that you're excited about, it's pretty incredible what it is that you can create in your life. I'm sitting here today. I had zero confidence. I was bullied and beaten at school, at home, on my block. And I sit here and I talk in front of thousands of people. I do podcasts every single day. Everything in my life has prepared me for what is happening now, and everything that's happening right now is preparing me for what's next. And that's the way I visualize life.
And oops, I just started at 6:15. So we're gonna take a break, but stay with me. For those of you on Facebook, we'll just continue on. For those of you listening to the radio show, this is Robert Seidel, it's the Gateway Show, and I've got Christopher Rausch here. We'll resume our live interview right after the break. And for those of you on Facebook, stay with us. We'll just keep this going. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'll be back in a moment for with all of you who are on the radio. Back in a moment. Okay. So Christopher, yes, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, whatever we encounter, I will say most of the great traditions of the world say the same thing. By the way, the saying I've heard it. There's a lot of different ways you could describe it. If you can climb on what you encounter, it can lift you to a higher place.
100%.
Yeah, if you climb on it. And you were just reminding me that there was a story. I'm not sure I'm not getting the story quite right. Some guy wanted to get rid of his donkey, so he threw it down into a well,
Yeah.
and then he
Poured the dirt
started,
on it.
shoveling dirt on him, right? But the funny
Yeah.
part about it is there was something he was saying all along too, and I can't remember the story. Do you remember what he was saying? But anyway, he kept shoveling the dirt and shoveling the dirt, but the dirt would just fall off the back of the
They thought
donkey.
they were burying him. He's like, oh, we have to bury the donkey. We have to bury the donkey. But as they poured more dirt in there, the donkey was able to rise. And
He
when
just
you
kept
think that people are
stepping
pouring
up on
dirt
it.
on you, you have to sit there and step up. Yes. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. I mean, when you think about your life, Robert, I mean, tell me this. I'll put on my interviewer hat for a second. Tell me about it. Tell me about one of the lowest moments in your life and what you learned the most out of that.
What I mostly have learned from encountering deep adversities. Well, I'll tell you one of the things I learned. The lowest thing in my life, I learned uh, how much my wife loved me when I went through a
Beautiful.
difficult time in my life. Interesting. It was interesting that that's something that came out of that I wouldn't have expected. Also, what I've also learned, Christopher, I just was thinking about this last night. Um, Most of the good in my life has come, and how we're all a little bit different this way, but well, I actually think it's probably the same for everybody. It's through the loving kindness of other people.
Yes.
And if you get a handful, I have a handful of people I'll give you an example of something interesting. When I worked at a big law firm, like I was telling you, that represented President Reagan when I first got out of law school. And I met one guy there who's become like a lifelong friend, and he still works with me every single day. You know, he's doesn't live. He's works. He's remotely connected to my office, but we talk every single day. He reads every message in my office every day. So he has saved my life financially, and even more than financially, many times. I'm thinking, how did that happen? So I'm starting to realize in my life anyway. It's like love is not earned per se. It's more if we can accept it. Even to look at your own life.
Yes.
I mean, why does your wife love you? And why does your son love you? I mean, yes, we try to do our part, right? We try to do our part. But love is ultimately a gift that we don't earn, right? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever
Nice.
seen that?
It
Like,
is. It
why?
truly is. It took me a long time to figure that out because I didn't have a lot of love in my life. And I'm grateful for all the beautiful people in my life who have taught me love. So yes, thank you for saying that.
Well, it's a funny thing about love. I think I'm listening for this. Oh, we're going to be back on the radio in just 1 second. Hold on just a second.
And we are back.
That's right.
Back to you in
Hello.
the studio. I always want to say that.
What was that again?
I always want to say back to you in the studio.
Oh,
They're on a live feed or something like that. Back to you in the studio.
here we go. A second. Good evening, my friends. It's Robert Seidel. It's the Gateway Show on every Sunday night live on the number one talk station in Las Vegas, simulcasting on Facebook, and also you can By the way, this is also being uploaded to YouTube. Although I missed the last few weeks, but I'll getting those all loaded. So you can just type in podcast, Seidel podcast or Gateway podcast, and you can find me on YouTube also. But right now, you can easily find it also on Facebook. For example, tonight's show will be recorded. You can come back later and look at it also on Facebook. And I have Christopher Rausch here tonight with me, he and I first met about 10 years ago. We were just during the break. We were just talking about the biggest revelation of my life. Really, I think as a human being, we think we have to earn the love of other people. Now, I suppose the one way there's one part of truth in that. If you're just a constant jerk to people, I guess you could burn your paths of love, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so we have to all be careful not to be that way. We have to be, but if we can be loving ourselves, then what will start to show up in our lives is people who love us and support us. And so uh, that's what's made my life work. I mean, that's how I've been able to go along and be successful. I've had loving, kind people in my life. My wife supports me, very loving and kind, very loyal employees, different people, and that has been the essence of my formula in life. And and I've come to realize, Christopher, just like you're saying, it's not really something I can earn, but I suppose we do have to do our part, right? There's a subtle line, don't we? Isn't there?
There is.
Because you
There
don't
is.
want.
And I love the fact that you bring that up, Robert, because one of the things that I found so much, especially during COVID, I gifted a bunch of people with coaching sessions for free, just as my way of giving back. And I heard this whisper, and you'll appreciate this because you listen to God's Source Universe. I heard this whisper that said, ask these people a yes or no question. Do you love yourself? Yes or no? And I was like, I was thinking in my brain, I'm like, that's a stupid question. Of course, people love themselves and they may not like themselves, but of course they love themselves. So I started asking people, I'm like, oh, I'm about to ask you a question. I want you to think about it very, very quickly. Do you love yourself? Yes or no? And out of 200 coaching sessions that I gifted to people, about 75% people struggled with loving themselves. And so my follow-up question was, do you expect people to love you? Do you expect to have amazing relationships in your life? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, you're being incongruent. You're giving all your love to everybody else. You're giving everything, every part of you to everybody else, but you're not giving it to yourself. Because as kids, what are we told? Stop being selfish. And those
Yeah,
conditioning patterns that happen to us between the age of 0 and 5 really shape our beliefs and our attitudes shape our feelings and our actions. We have to shift that dynamic. We have to start talking better to ourselves. So many people I meet talk so poorly to themselves. They would never repeat that to their son, their daughter, their best friend, their mom, their wife, their husband, whoever it might be. But yet people expect to have these amazing relationships in their life because they don't have that with themselves. And so one of the most important things that I tell people and get people to connect with is to love yourself. Like, irregardless of all the mistakes and all the failures and everything that you've had in your life, isn't it beautiful that you're still here? Isn't it beautiful that you get to share this experience with other people and to find that love in those moments? I have found that I was always about, success and everything else. But when you find love and peace and freedom within yourself just to be exactly who you are, it is incredible. Literally incredible. I'm telling you guys what it is and who it is you will attract in your life, because right now I am so blessed. I'm 54 years old. I have a 6-year-old son we adopted from birth. I have an amazing wife. I have amazing friends. I have amazing mentors. I have amazing coaches. I have amazing, beautiful people like yourself in my life. It's not on accident. When you start loving yourself and you start being congruent with your message and you have a vision for the person that you want to be every single day, the people you attract and the situations you attract are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be easy, but they're always going to be amazing to help you grow and become the person you need to be.
Yeah, no. I'm enjoying listening to what you say. Listen. I am one thing about me. I'm a lifelong learner, and the day I think I know it all is the day I'm sure I'll be in trouble. And so every
Never.
time, so yeah, never. I mean, it's just the way it is with me. I I Actually, I take a personal pleasure on growth, and I happen to like spiritual growth, is my favorite arena, because I start to realize there's deeper and deeper layers. By the way, there's a greatly simplistic way of putting being nice to ourselves, but I like this way of saying it. You have to learn how to be your own best friend. Very simplistic,
Yes.
but it's funny because think about that, right? The reason why I like it is simple. Would you go up to your best friend and say, you're kind of an idiot, and you're really stupid, and that was really a stupid movie you made yesterday, and not only that, but you're stupid because of what you ate today. I mean, you wouldn't say those things to your best friend, would you?
Nope.
At least not most of the time. Unless they were really sincerely asking for some sort of kind of feedback like that. But most of the time, you'd be much kinder. You try to figure out a kind
Have you
way to.
considered this? Would you do this?
Right,
Perhaps. But we
right,
don't
all
do that with
that.
ourselves.
We
No,
don't do that with ourselves. So that's
never.
my own personal theory is if there's a magic key in our souls, which I actually believe there is. Hey, here's somebody saying something. I'm just going to read this back just for
What's up,
fun.
Glenn?
Yeah, it
Thank you
says
for being.
when someone helps you while they're struggling too, that's not help, that's love. Yeah, that's right. I know a lot of people, but only have a handful of true friends. It's very inspiring. Thank you, Mr. Seidel and guest. Well, that is true, Glenn. That's true for all of us, and all of us have a handful of really good friends, and then hopefully we have another group of people that are maybe just one layer outside of that arena, but they really sincerely are trying to be nice too. And there's a lot of people like that too that are very blessed, blessings in our lives also. But
Mhm.
for me, it's a matter of humbling myself. But the realization, if I'm going to start to love myself, I have to be willing to go deeper and deeper. Oh, I was going to say, so the magic key for me, the magic key is if you could get off your own back, if you could quit attacking you, then you're going to be in unity with the higher presence of God, and suddenly the potential for miraculous life starts to emerge through your soul in ways that you
True.
could never imagine. But as long as your unconscious mind is fighting you all the time, at war with you, how are you going to unify with the infinite presence of love and God? You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
I love what you're saying right there, and I just want to jump in on for people watching and listening on this. Congruency. When you get congruent with yourself and you get congruent with your values and your morals and your ethics, and you stop tolerating a lot of the BS that's going on in the rhetoric that's going on in your brain, it's pretty amazing. I was at a funeral in 2008, and on paper, I was super successful, 6 figures, operating my zone of excellence, just all these great things happening in my life as a former seventh grade homeless dropout. Right. And I sat there and I went to this funeral, and they were eulogizing a coworker of mine who I knew, but I didn't really know. And my buddy Dave Riley gets up there and he starts blubbering about her, about how great she is, and about all the different things she did in her life that we had no idea about. And so I thought to myself, Robert, and you'll appreciate this. I thought, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And I want you guys all out there in radio land and viewer land to think about this very significantly. Who would show up and what would they say? And to God's honest truth, Robert, I laughed because I thought 10 or 15 people will show up at my funeral. They'll bring cases of Miller Genuine Draft and bottles of Jack Daniels and Bon Jovi and Motley Crue records. And all they are going to talk about is all the stupid stuff Chris did. Oh, remember that time he did this. Remember that time he did this. Remember that time he did this. Oh, remember these girls he chased. Remember this. Oh, yeah. And the postscript on my life, Robert, would be, oh, he was a homeless seventh grade dropout who changed the world. And I thought about that, and it bugged the crap out of me. When I drove home, I thought, what can I do with this situation? What can I do with this feeling inside my heart that says, I don't want to be remembered as the guy that partied his brains out and had all these crazy experiences. I want to be remembered for the person who loved people for who they were, no matter whether black, white, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat. I want to be remembered for the guy who listened to people. I want to be remembered for the guy who made a difference in this world. And so when I went home, I did something that most people are not comfortable with. And now I have all my coaching clients do this. I wrote my eulogy. I
Mhm.
literally, in my 30s, wrote my eulogy. And in it, when I read it back to myself out loud, I started crying. I literally started having tears running down my face. And the crux of my eulogy, still to this very day, I'm 54. This was in my 30s. Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered. And he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and who he did, what he did. And so every single day when I wake up, the first thing I do is I say what I'm grateful for. The next thing I do is I set the intention to be that person. So if this is the last conversation, God forbid, I ever have, and my son watches it, he's going to know that dad passionately cared about making this world a better place. And so when we all get aligned and we get congruent with that message and we stop tolerating the people in our life that don't support that message, it's incredible what it is that you can get in your life. I am like literally, I've been through hell and back, and I have a beautiful, beautiful, amazing life. It is not easy. There are still challenges, but I look forward to those challenges because they have made me who I am, and they're going to continue to make me who I am today.
That is beautiful, and I like the eulogy idea. I want to tell you something funny or fun that happened to me yesterday that reminds me of what I think happens when we get congruent. We get a little more
Yes.
self-loving and accepting. I was at Disneyland, and there was I don't think I'm even going to mention the restaurant, but it was one of the restaurants that's very hard to get into there because I know you go to Disneyland a lot, and
Three,
so
three, three.
well, it wasn't that one, but anyway, it was also another hard one to get into. But
Okay.
what I was going to say is so it's one of those places you usually have to be booked a couple months ahead of time.
Yep.
And so I thought, you know what? My daughter in law, it was her birthday. So I'm just going to go in and see if there's any chance. And I had 10 of us there, which is pretty hard to accommodate 10 people, right?
Yeah,
So I
that's
thought,
a
I'm just
lot.
going to go in and see what they say. So I walk in, and there's this very nice lady there. And I said, hi, I'm so and so. I didn't even mention it was my daughter in law's birthday. I said, any chance you could accommodate? She goes, how many people in your group? I said, well, about 10 people. She goes, sure, bring them in right now. We'll accommodate them. So suddenly, I got a chance to sit down with this beautiful birthday dinner in this beautiful restaurant last night, and in a place that normally you have to wait a couple of months for a reservation. So I'm thinking, how did that happen? And during that dinner, I was actually very humbled. I was sitting there, almost started crying because I thought, that's what the infinite intelligence of God can do for us in our lives.
True.
And, how did that happen? My son went with me. He goes, Dad, he said, what exactly happened right there? Because what caused that to happen? And my wife was asking the same thing, and I said, you know what? I don't know that I have a good explanation for that, but that's kind of the journey I've been on for a long time. It's humility, it's opening your heart to alignment. By the way, one of the things we have to go to a break in 1 second. I want to talk about something. I don't know if you've ever heard this concept before, but I've been thinking about focusing a little bit of my spiritual show on this, maybe from this point forward. The notion of becoming aligned to infinite intelligence. So it's like you're
Yes.
kind of in the right place at the right time, and it's getting just getting that alignment. So you need that table for 10 with no plans. You show up, lady's very nice. Oh sure, we can do that. That's alignment. But anyway, I got to go to a break right now. This is Robert Seidel, and I've got Christopher Rausch here. We'll be back and keep this live interview going as soon as we get back from the break. So stay tuned with us, folks. And those of you on Facebook, we'll keep talking during the break as well. Stay with us. This is Robert Seidel and Christopher Rausch. So I'm telling you some of the different things people say. This guy says, those who came to my funeral would hear me something very similar. People tend to remember the bad or fun things we do over the actual accomplished, which is sad. By the way, I want to tell you something interesting,
Ted's
Christopher.
a buddy of mine. Ted's a buddy of mine. Adam's here. We got some amazing people here tonight. So yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really about that. It's about being intentional. Like so many times when we're unintentional, we're reactional. We're reactional because we're emotional based creatures. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. But when we get intentional about like, what legacy do I want to leave today? and being in alignment with that, and also having the expectation that good happens. So many people sit there and think, oh, it's always bad shit that happens. It's like, no, you had the expectation, like, hey, I'm going to show up here and I'm just going to simply ask and be present. And they were able to serve you. That's a beautiful thing. So many people sit there and focus on the negative, and of course they get more negative because the law of attraction, that vibrational frequency, which for me is weird to talk about. I was not this guy. I was not the vibrational frequency. I was not a meditator. I was not anything of that sort. But because I've been exposed to so many beautiful people like yourself and my buddy Scott and so many other people, Lee, I've opened myself up to that, to being present, to being awake, and to being aware, and to realize that this human experience is only going to happen for just a little bit of time. But the soul's experience and what's going to transcend all this is an amazing part of this. And once we enjoy that, that's where I think the beauty of life really happens. And for me to say that is weird as heck, but I love and appreciate that about myself, because we continue to grow and evolve.
Right. At least if we want to. I used to have a saying to myself, your life either gets bigger, greater, more loving, or it gets narrower, tighter, and more rigid. And
Yeah.
if it's the second category, which is easy to have happen, listen, I get it, I get it. We all have the things that upset us sometimes. But what happens is we can become bitter. And you probably heard the little saying, which I happen to like. I love little simple sayings. Bitter
Yep.
or better. You
Better
heard
or
that
better.
before? You get
Oh
bitter
yeah.
or better. And any one of us can get bitter sometimes. We don't know in what way we will be tested in our lives. I mean, and it's hard sometimes to forgive and love and give. But uh, by the way, a lot of people are giving some nice comments in here. Yay,
Thank you. I see
another
that. Capri,
night.
thank you.
Yeah,
Or
loving the
Capri.
show. Yeah, Capri had to switch to Facebook so I can carry on during the break. That's the fun thing about Facebook. It's actually a nice way to broadcast a message. I'm gonna have, what'd you call that thing? Something yard? What'd you call it?
StreamYard.
StreamYard? Maybe I should
Yeah,
try
that's what I
something
use
like
for
that.
my shows.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to. I'm always looking for better ways to do it. You know what? Um,
We'll show you the way, brother.
all right, I accept that, brother. I like that idea. No, listen. I had somebody come to one of my meditation groups once, and she says she had this vision that when you get to heaven, you're carried on the back of the friends you've helped out during life. Now, that's not a theological thing, but it's a nice way to look at it. If we can help enough people and try to do enough good for people, I think everything's going to turn out okay.
Yes.
Here we go. We're coming back on the radio here. Good evening, it's Robert Seidel. This is the Gateway Show on every Sunday night, 6 to 7 p.m. live on the number one talk station here in Las Vegas. Also simulcasting on Facebook. And I have tonight Christopher Rausch with us, who is a motivational coach himself. And he's sharing, we're having a fun conversation about mutual growth. He and I met about 10 years ago. I had him on the show one time about 5 years ago before I was on Facebook and Zoom. And so I'm kind of seeing how you're growing too. I mean, we're both growing. I mean, that it's not a stable thing, and we keep moving. By the way,
Yes.
one of my friends just posted, we have to be constantly on the vigil to not allow ourselves to become bitter. There are too many things to be grateful. And that, Dinah, that's right. It's a subtle journey. And one of the problems in our society right now is I don't think we as human beings haven't learned how to deal with the social media thing very well. And so people say all sorts of things to each other that really they'd never say in person, right? They say a lot of insulting, berating, hateful things. Let's be honest about it. And then people get reactive and they respond the same way. And so that's not healthy, and that's kind of where our society is at today, in one part of it anyway. And so a show like this, and I'm sure what you're doing on your show, is designed to be an antidote to that, a place of
Yes.
greater love. What I'm working on, Christopher, in my life, there's something that I like to call. I think Ted, I think she's talking. Ted, not she. He is talking about your show. I'm assuming you have such a positive attitude. You can see in your shows. There's also such a love for people in your career. It fits your personality. I love your show. Love you, bro. I think that's your friend.
Thank you,
That's your
Ted.
friend, Christopher, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing
Um,
dude.
yeah, Ted. I
Going through
appreciate
his own
it.
stuff. I mean, he's showing up here. I think he might even be in the hospital right now. He might be doing this from the hospital. He's been going through his own stuff and having some procedures and stuff like that, but still showing up. So thank you, Ted.
When I'm working on something, it's sometimes there's simple concepts like I mentioned the simple concept you have to learn how to be your own best friend, right? And
Yes.
that's a good test for all of us every morning when we wake up. Are you being your own best friend as you walk through the day? And that could even be as much as simple as what are you putting in your body? You know, what are
True.
you? Sure, I hear a little sound of one of our dogs in the background. I don't know if you can hear him barking or not. And so
No.
I have lots of dogs in my life. So, oh, my friend Mark Savage. Yes, you're a horrible person, my lifelong loving friend. That's he's
Savage.
yeah, I've known him since elementary school actually.
Wow, that's
He
amazing. That's
he and
so
a group of
awesome.
friends. We go up to the mountains. He and four or five other guys. We go up. That we all known each other since kindergarten, and we go up once a year usually and talk to each other and kind of see where we're at in life. And
That's beautiful.
it is interesting. Yeah, it's very beautiful actually. That's the best thing I can say. A lot of
Mhm.
growth, a lot of love in the whole process, and Mark's a very loving, kind person, and so I appreciate your thoughts, Mark. Even though you called me a horrible person, but I know that that is being sarcastic. By the way,
Yes.
did you ever see that show, The Big Bang Theory? You probably did a few times, right?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
You
Yes.
remember how Sheldon would always have to look over and say, "Are they being sarcastic?" Do you remember?
Yep. He never knew. It was like, are they being
Well,
real?
that's sometimes I'm like that. My wife will say, "Okay, Sheldon." She'll say that to me. I say, "Are you being sarcastic?" I don't always tell. Now with Mark's case, I do know. But anyway, but you know what I'm working on? A simple concept that was first started planted in my heart about 30 years, 40 years ago even. Is I call it the great love. It's the kind of love that lifts us beyond our egocentricity, which is our human nature, right? We all have
Right.
egocentricity, and
Hmm.
that's okay. We all have a survival self. We all do. Everybody has it. But we can also sometimes get lifted into a kind of a supreme love where suddenly our heart kind of expands and we feel loving and very compassionate to the journey of humanity, as you call it, the hero's journey. And
Right.
that's what I'm working on. And if we could just reach our heart out and just expand and expand and expand, and just so we can, if we could pull enough love out, and this is not a new idea, I understand this, but if we could bring enough love into this world, we can build this world and make it work remarkably well for the vast majority of people.
Mhm.
If we weren't in constant opposition to one another, you know. So that's my dream.
So,
And does that mean I actually know how to do that myself? Not really, but I can keep opening my heart to love, and that's the main thing I keep doing. And that's kind of the message of this show a lot. Hey Janet,
and
all
that's
these
and
are
honestly, Robert, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I don't watch the news or follow politics anymore. I used to. I used to be a news junkie and a political junkie many, many years ago. I could debate all the different issues and everything that's going on. But when I go out to the world every single day, which I do, I say good morning. I say hi to every single person that I come encounter with. And I look like this all the time. So I look like I could be mean. I look like tattoos and everything. But I always say good morning. How are you doing? What's going on? I always try to make a difference in everybody's day. Everywhere I go in the world, people are beautiful. Like we were talking about Disneyland. When I go to Disneyland, I see beautiful people all the time. I think if something happened to me, somebody wouldn't go, "Oh, he looks like a Trump guy. I'm not going to support him." Everybody, I think humanity is way more beautiful than we give it credit for if we sit there and we look at the social media stuff like that. But I also think it's important for us to go out there with that love, with that kindness, with that respect, with that tenderness to be able to make a difference in somebody else's day. It's one thing for us to want for ourselves, but it's also such an amazing thing just to do something nice for somebody else. Like when you guys are driving on the road, how many times do you really let somebody in from a driveway or change lanes or something like that? Like cut people some slack. I mean, a lot of people are going through some challenges right now, and wave to them, not like the you know what wave, but just wave to people and just be nice. Let's all together make this world a better place for our kids and our kids' kids. My kid's 6 years old, and I pray, and I believe he will. I believe he will see in his lifetime this world become a more unified, loving, more global place with a lot less fear and a lot less hate and a lot less divisiveness. But all of that comes back to us and what we teach ourselves and what we teach our kids in our homes. It's important for that. Like that's what we got to do. We got to wake up every single day and say, what can I do to make this world just a little bit better place for myself, for my family, and for the rest of the world?
that's beautiful.
Don't get me started.
No, I don't know. No, it's very beautiful. By the way, were you in Boy Scouts by any chance?
I was not in Boy Scouts, but actually my son is now in Cub Scouts. So
Because
it's,
in
yeah,
Boy Scouts,
he
I
just
was
started
I
that.
was a Boy Scout. Believe it or not, I was an Eagle Scout. You don't even hear about that much anymore. But the being a Boy Scout, one of the ideas is always try to leave things better. If you have a campsite, leave it better than the way you found it. And and that's we each have to reach our hearts out and see what way we can do that. But that's, you know what? It doesn't have to be huge things in your life, really. Anything, just that smile at somebody. I saw somebody. I was walking in Costco,
all
and
the
this
time.
lady had a nice smile. I said, "Hey, you have a very pretty smile." It's like um, people, and probably not many people say that to her. I mean, I hope people close to her do. I hope they do,
Sure.
but people may not. I mean, so human beings are walking around being. Another thing is people often wear nice things and jewelry and stuff, and I think to myself, well, hey, somebody made some thinking about that. I wonder what the story is about that. And if you can just open people up a little bit, suddenly their day starts to expand, right?
Yes. The ripple effect. The
um,
ripple effect. I find myself complimenting people now. I always say hi and good morning and stuff like that. But I'm like, oh, that's a really cool shirt. Oh, that's a really cool necklace. And the radiance, you see people like, oh my God, thank you so much. That, like, just go pay that forward. Just let's all go pay that forward every single day in every single way. And the world will become a better place. Guarantee it.
I 100% agree with you. That's all I can really say. And none of us, neither you nor I, know exactly. This is the part I like to surrender it all to God in the most infinite, loving sense of that word. But um, we don't know how far any seeds that you and I might plant will blossom, right? But that's all
True.
right. Uh, it's like when you plant a tree, you never know what's going to come from it, right? And that's so each one of us, and that's better that way, right? Keeps us more humble. You know, it's better to just go out and keep sharing love in the way we feel it in our heart, right? I mean, but I could tell, hearing you talk. Oh, my friend Andy says, great guest, very nice interview. By the way, it's interesting.
Andy.
Andy worked very very closely with Tony Robbins for many years, back when Tony was first getting started, and Andy has some great stories himself. I'll tell you what, but I won't share them tonight. But he had the number one nightclub in the Hamptons, and there was a hurricane came and blew it all out to sea. So
Oh,
he went from having the number one nightclub. Literally, there was a movie he says made about it, and I can't. He told me it's called The Perfect Storm or something. But it was like,
that, no, what, really?
yeah, there was
George
actually,
Clooney?
yeah, I think right. I think that was it. He'll probably post on there and say, but he told me
Wow.
this story. He goes, somebody called him and says, well, your place went washed out to sea, and it had like 10 buildings. He just his one toilet thing. He had 72 toilets, and so it was a big place, right? And so he thought just one little building. And he said, what washed out? He goes, everything washed out. So, oh yeah, so yeah. He said, yeah, that's the movie with George Clooney, and that was
Wow.
about that was, and
That's
he lost.
insane.
So his business disappeared overnight. So he went from, as he's told me many times, being a king in his world because he had this whole nightclub and people all would come to see him and radio hosts and everything, and suddenly it was gone. And then
Yeah.
the neighbors didn't really want it rebuilt there once it was gone because it was in the Hamptons, and so his life changed. So, but now he's become a friend of mine. So we met at a networking group actually a few years ago here in Las Vegas, and so it's just again the stories of life. But we all have to just keep surrendering and surrendering and surrendering, and opening our hearts to love, and kind of keep tracking the time up. This, it's funny, Christopher. This is the thing I find frustrating on the radio, but it's okay. It's a good sign, really. Is we've already been on 45 minutes close to it, and we could go easily another hour. But
Oh yeah.
we're gonna go to break. We'll keep talking on the break, and also you'll hear my friend Ernie and Janet, and they usually have a positive thought too. So, oh yeah, here it is. My friend Andy saying Hampton Beach Club washed out to see Halloween 1991 on Dune Road.
Wow. I'm gonna have
So,
to go watch that after this. We're in movie watching mode today, so we're gonna have to go watch that. Of course, Perfect Storm and all that stuff kind of freaks me out, but no, thank you
well,
for being here.
okay, hold on a second. Stay with me, everybody. We're going to a break. When I come back, we'll also have Ernie and Janet with us too. This is Robert Seidel, The Gateway Show. Hold on just a second. So, yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, there's been a lot of lessons for me in the world recently, how we live in a changing world. I mean,
Oh yeah.
have you been to Maui at all? Have you ever been to Lahaina?
No, no, no. I've been to Hawaii, but not there. No,
Okay.
that's, I mean, horribly catastrophic.
It is horribly catastrophic. And what's weird about it is I first went there in 1970 when I graduated from high school, and I showed up with the same friends that were going up to be in the mountains actually, but we were just hippies. We literally had no place to sleep. We just slept on the beach because it was very primitive back then. And it's Hawaii. It's just a nice, relaxing place to be. And
Sure.
we and one of the places we went was Lahaina, and there was this little hotel that was built in 1901. It's called the Pioneer Inn. It was built for whalers. Really, they would come to town, and a cute little wooden structure place. Well, that burned down among lots of other things too. So
Oh wow.
all the great teachings say the same thing, but I don't think any of us really want to face it. Is how the world's very temporal. It's that's why we got, including our bodies. We each start to see, hey, I got this little issue showing up, that little issue showing up, right? And okay, here comes Janet. Hi, Janet.
Hello, Janet.
Can you hear us? I don't know. She's not responding yet. Let's see. Janet, can you hear me? Well, she'll come on in a second. Um, and then my friend Ernie will be on in a second too. But I mean, so you see these things happening. Um, let's see. My friend Mark is responding. He's hearing both of us. Oops, she just disappeared. Well, she'll be back in a second, I'm sure. Yeah, love. I mean, if you and I if we're filled with love, we're happy, aren't we?
Yes.
When we're not filled with love, we're not happy, are we? It kind of goes both ways. Doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. Money's a gift, but it doesn't give us love, does it? By
No.
itself, it doesn't give us love. Janet, are you there?
I am.
Okay, good. And how about you, Ernie? Are you there too?
What's going on, Janet? What's up, Ernie?
Hello, hello. Hi, Christopher.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys.
Yes.
Well, so Ernie, by the way, is somebody I met about 10 years ago now in a networking group. And it turned out we had
Yes.
certain things in common. And so he's been doing prayers, and he's actually written a whole book on prayers. Um, and you said you have his book. Didn't you say that to me?
I have his book. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Christopher's book. He told me
It's coming out.
Is
It's
it,
right there. It's just
is
you
it
and me.
out yet? Is it out?
No, it's going to be out. It's going to be out. It's actually, I'm just going through the editing process right now. So it's going to probably be closer to Christmas, but yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be out a little bit later this year.
Great. I would love to get your
Thank you.
book. Very exceptional coach you are.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going back to radio just a second.
Yeah.
Good evening. This is Robert Seidel. You're listening to the Gateway Show on every Sunday night, 6 to 7 p.m. on the number one talk station here in Las Vegas, and also simulcasting on Facebook. And also, I'm beginning to up. You can go to YouTube also and type in Robert Seidel Gateway Podcast, and you can see shows and you can see and listen to any prior show too. So we're getting those uploaded too. So you have multiple ways listening: YouTube, Facebook, or on the radio. Either way. You can go back and listen. So tonight, I've got Christopher Rausch on the phone. I'm not on the phone, on Zoom, and I also have Ernie and Janet, and so yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's fun. By the way, this ability to all be together and be on the radio. My son Brian is the one that sets this all up, which is you'd be amazed the complexity of the backstory that we can both be on this and go out on the radio simultaneously. Oh, listen, Marie is saying 4 stars embodying what can happen in the city of light. I like that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's great. I like to say that I want to hold an image of Vegas as a city of light. And I get distracted too in my life because I've also got a job too, my legal career, and I'm balancing all that. Plus being a dad too of 4 kids, married in 37 years. So I got the whole story going. Capri wants to know, Andy, what's the name of the movie? Well, the movie is A Perfect Storm, right? I think that's the name of this movie with George Clooney, something like that. Capri, you can look it up, and you can ask Andy about it next time. But anyway, before we go on, so we'll stay with us, Christopher. We don't have a whole lot of time in this last segment. Well, I'm going to start with Ernie. Share a prayer with us. Ernie always puts together a very nice prayer for the evening.
All right. Thank you, Robert. The topic of the prayer is how to pull yourself out of a hole and recover into great success. Dear Lord, we thank you for this blessed day and to journey through this adventurous life. Lord, Grant us to be aware and recognize to remove the blocks and adversity that stop us from experiencing great success. Guide us to release fear, doubt, confusion, and anxiety within us and have faith in God and grace to develop the courage and confidence with ease, living and moving to the life of greater success. We pray we stay focused in our thoughts and take positive actions to fulfill living and experiencing great success with God's grace that surrounds us, creating heaven on earth, and so it is. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful,
Fantastic,
Ernie.
Ernie.
Thank you, man.
Ernie always puts a lot of time and effort into these prayers. In fact, he has a whole book on prayers, right, Ernie? That's
Oh,
your.
yeah. A prayer after each chapter in my book. Yes.
Just tell him the name of your book. So, I mean, I think he knows already, but
Yeah. How to create your heaven on earth.
by the way, my friend Mark says, "Good one, Ernie, from this atheist." My friend Mark. Mark calls himself an atheist. I don't know if he really is an atheist, but he thinks he is sometimes. But anyway, that's a different story. My theory, by the way, for whatever it's worth, is that God loves atheists as much as anybody. That's just my story.
Yes.
But so, Janet, what do you have to share with us tonight?
Well, I usually read from something. I'm going to read from the Daily Word. It's for later on in this week, but it feels like it is about what everybody was talking about earlier. And it's joy lifts me. I feel the light of joy shimmering throughout my body and mind. The fruit of spirit is joy, and I share it freely with everyone I meet. Joy feels like a magical power. Even in the tough moments when the world seems bleak, I can go within myself and bask in God's love and feel the joy that is always a part of me. Nothing and no one can take it from me. When facing adversity, I call forth the power of joy to help me lighten up. When I want to express how I feel, I may listen to uplifting songs, dance freely, or laugh with the dear one. Watching a sunset, looking at a baby's sweet face, or marveling at a budding flower reminds me to open my heart to my feelings and express my joy. Every day I behold the miracle of life with a joyful heart.
That's
Amen.
By the way, Christopher, I got to tell you something interesting about Janet. Janet, I've known we don't really want to talk how long, Janet, but I think I've known you close to 40 years now. Let's just say 35 anyway. But, and so when my dad got older, he moved to Vegas and he lived here about the last 7 years of his life. And when he finally, around age 96, he couldn't drive anymore, much to his chagrin. And so, Janet lovingly came in and we hired her and she became his caretaker, so to speak, right? Even though you're not a medical person.
Yeah. I was the elder nanny.
Yeah, an elder nanny. And it was actually a great experience. I mean, it was great for my dad and I think it was good for you too. And you two had a lot of deep philosophical conversations with him, didn't you? Among other things, right?
Yeah, among other things.
Yeah. But I know that my dad, and I always like to tell this one story because Janet's going to laugh about this. So, like a week before my dad died, he was lying in bed, and a neighbor came by and says, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And he goes, "Yeah, get this young woman to spend the night with me in the bed."
Sense of humor right up until the end. That's beautiful.
Right.
And
That's true. It's true, right, Janet? You remember that?
No, it's totally true. It's totally true. Yeah. He used to ask me at least once a week. And then he'd say, "I won't tell Bob."
Yeah, that's why they had a good relation. You know what? It was really lucky for us to have Janet do that for him because instead of having an impersonal phase of his life, this last segment of his life is one of his best segments. Matter of fact, I asked him once. I said, "Dad," he was like 98 or something. I said, "So, would you like to be back 90 again?" Even he goes, "No, this is a really good time in my life." I mean, he goes, "It's kind of slow and magical." So that was nice. But you know what? The music's coming on, which I think is a way of saying the time is up. So, my friends, Christopher, thank you so much for being with us. God bless you.
Thank you, bro.
Janet,
Appreciate
Ernie,
you.
God bless. Everybody listening, God bless. Let's go and have a fabulous, miraculous week. And Christopher, post on the comments your website, okay? So anybody wants to
You
get in
got
touch
it.
with you, they can do that.
Absolutely,
Okay?
absolutely. It's been a pleasure to dance with you in conversation again, brother. Appreciate you, love all you guys, and go out there, just be the change that you want to see in life, and let's make this world a better place for who we are and what we do. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. God bless. Same thing. I feel exactly the same way. God bless you all. And talk to you all later until next
Bye.
week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Whoops.
Oops.
All right, my friends. Whoops, I gotta do one other thing first. Hold on. I'm
Oops,
goofing this
I
up for a
did
second.
it again.
I gotta stop.